Hi everyone and welcome to 5 Points Blue. I'm Kelsey Charles and I am joined by Christy Scales, Nita Shrikant, and Miss Lindsay Cash. And this week we're going to break down a little bit of the Houston win this past Sunday and look ahead to the Seahawks. After the exciting win the Cowboys had over the Texans on Sunday, Romo and Witten came out and talked a little bit about how it kind of felt like it was an away game with the crowd noise, which is something that is not a new topic of discussion this season, but it's interesting that they made some points about it. So talk to me a little bit about how this affects the team, and then looking ahead towards the Seahawks, how it could have an impact in this team when they go up to Seattle.
Well, it is ridiculous when you're in your home stadium and you have to go to a silent count. And even in the fourth quarter and those final drives, they were having to do that. And a silent count is when you're not able to communicate verbally because it's too loud. And so the quarterback, often back in the shotgun because the lineman can't hear him or anyone else, the guard will have to turn and look back towards Romo, towards the quarterback, and will physically tap the center on his hip to indicate, okay, it's time to snap the ball. So that is unheard of, doing that in your own stadium, but that's what happened Sunday because there were so many Texans fans at AT&T Stadium.
Your voice is a little hoarse.
Well, and some of that, I was on the sideline and trying to talk above the Houston Texans fans, but you know, the Cowboys fans were really loud too. It's just that, you know, from the perspective of being on Dallas Cowboys Radio Network, there would be people that would tune into the game, and if they came in the course of the game and didn't know where it was being played, they wouldn't know if it was down in Houston or up here in Arlington.
I think this is really strategic too of Romo. I think he knows coming up the next two home games are division opponents. So his exact quote was, "We need to do a better job as a fan base to make sure we understand how big of a difference it is to play at home." I think it's very smart on his part to do that, but with two big.
Well, I also think there's some culpability on the team's part as well. I mean, this team has been 8-8 for the past couple of years, and there's something to be said for that. I mean, there is responsibility from the fans to be loud and be there and create a home field advantage for your team, but your team also has to show up and do their part as well. So I think there's two sides to that story. I see what they're saying, but I'm not going to sit there and blame the fans entirely for that.
And they travel well. The Dallas Cowboy fan base is one that you do find in all the different pockets of the nation. Christy, you've been traveling forever, and you expect to see them show up.
That's right. I remember in Arizona that it would be like a Cowboys home game. But I tell you, this past Sunday was good practice with that silent count for what the Cowboys are going to face this weekend in Seattle, because I know that it's been back and forth. Anita, you can address this, between the Kansas City crowd at Arrowhead Stadium and Seahawks, now it's called CenturyLink Field. Which one is the loudest? And I guess the Guinness Book of World Records, it's gone back and forth.
Right, the Guinness Book of World Records did a little thing with the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium where who had the loudest crowd roar. And the Chiefs had it back in 2013, but Seattle regained it with 137.6 decibels last year on Monday night against the Saints. But the Chiefs got it back with 142 decibels this year against the Patriots on Monday night. Now, to put that in perspective, a jet engine taking off is 140 decibels. So it's going to be loud there. Wow. It's going to be loud.
That makes quite a sound.
Yeah.
I grew up in Kansas City, so I can definitely speak to the Arrowhead noise, but it will be a task for this team to go up to Seattle and compete against not only the Seahawks, but the 12th man as well.
And there's no way to simulate that in practice.
No.
I mean, they pump music in practice in a training camp, but there's no way to simulate that.
Yeah, I tell you one thing about CenturyLink Field, there is a built-in advantage, literally, architecturally. There is a partial roof that covers about 70% of the seats, but not the field. And also, it's the smallest footprint. This stadium was built in 2002. They had to squeeze it into a small space. It's between the baseball field and downtown. It's in a terrific edge of downtown, great location, but it's small, so they had to build it vertically so the upper levels are closer to the field than any other stadium. So you have a partial roof, you have the fans that are closer, and it literally comes down over you. Of course, I'm wearing headphones on the sideline, so you're getting it in stereo, and it's hard to describe, but it's almost a tinny, metallic kind of sound, and it is annoying, and it's amazing. And the other thing is they take great pride in the number of false starts for the opponent, and once they get an advantage, and they're going to really get going. And the other thing is we talked about it earlier with the game this past week.
Right.
The team has to give the crowd something to get into, and the Seahawks have been a terrific team, and the fans have had a lot to cheer about.
Speaking of the Seahawks, they took on one of the NFC East rivals last night, the Washington Redskins, and quite honestly, I didn't think they did as well as I thought they would against the Redskins.
Yeah.
I mean, the Redskins are last in the NFC East right now. The Cowboys are tied at first with 4-1 with the Eagles. So coming up to Seattle, I mean, is this a winnable game, and is this going to be the true litmus test for the Cowboys and how this team really is going to be the rest of the season?
We've talked about, and one of the big themes of the season has been the running game and the commitment to the run, and if they can do that and keep possession and kind of silence that crowd a little bit, that'll be big.
I think this is absolutely the biggest test that the Cowboys could have. And yesterday, Jason Garrett kind of spoke to us after the press conference talking about how, yeah, I've been on a defending Super Bowl champion team 3 times actually. There's a huge target on their back. So just the Seahawks, it sounds cheesy, but just knowing they themselves are even going to try to take it up a notch is going to be even tougher.
When the schedule was released, everyone immediately wrote this off as a loss to start during the season. But this is a great opportunity for this team. We're a powerful running team. The offensive line is going up against the strength of the Seattle Seahawks. They have a strong defensive line. It's going to be a physical, fun game, and I cannot wait.
Well, we can't wait either, and I guess we will see how it all pans out this weekend as the Cowboys head to Seattle. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see you guys on 5 Points Blue next week.